When my friend passed away, I lost my spirit. My whole spirit out of my body is just gone. I can continue with life and get up and go to school and get dressed and do other things that other people do that look normal. But as far as my spirit, if I believe in myself, if I really truly love myself or ever really feel that I could love someone, I don't feel that it's there. I don't feel that inside my soul is a happy soul because I don't feel I have no spirit anymore because he's not here.
It is difficult to work with a young person who, is tomorrow's victim. Today they were somebody's perpetrator, tomorrow they're somebody's victim.
People we grew up with, and we were fighting with them, and it wasn't supposed to be that way. And then my friend got killed, then Ray got killed, then this is about where we at now.
Since 1986, Portland, Oregon has seen a dramatic rise in youth violence, especially in neighborhoods in North and Northeast. This video will examine how our youth responded to this violence, the rise in black-on-black youth violence, and the effects it's had on the neighborhood. This is a lesson in empathy as we reflect on death in the hood.
We didn't know they were gangs then. We didn't know anything about gangs being cops. We were totally ignorant. But these guys came up here, they were wearing certain colors, they were behaving certain ways, they had tattoos all over their body, they were throwing up hand signs. I mean, they were doing some strange stuff, and all of a sudden we heard that crack cocaine was here. What was crack? We didn't know anything about crack. Ice was here, which is a drug, a form of crystal methamphetamine. We had absolutely no idea what was that.
We had reached a point by about '88 where we estimated that in inner Northeast there were about 500 drug houses operating.
It doesn't take much. It's like somebody pouring gasoline on a floor, and you just pray that nobody comes by and lights a match. Well, the gasoline had been poured throughout this community because of economic disparities between this community and the rest of Portland, and because of a school system that didn't work, because of discrimination and racism. That's the social gasoline that had been poured on the floor. Gang activity that came into town was merely the spark that set it off in a way that it became visible.
At a very basic level, our youth are hurting as they respond to the deaths of their peers.
I knew these brothers ever since growing up. Started off in grade school, and high school's where they ended up. But I never guessed they would die. It was hard going to the funeral, watching people cry. Now hella mad with hate in my head, rage in my heart, making my eyes red. I felt revenge in the form of a drive-by. I kept praying and praying to God why. A lot of people feel the way I do. What's the use of life? I don't have a clue. Sitting alone thinking about the homies that passed, losing homie after homie to this life that's fast. Damn, I wish it all would end, but if it don't stop soon, I won't have any friends.
We were like really good friends, and he was skipping school the same day I was getting into a fight with someone else. And his friend that was driving was drunk, and he swerved into the other lane in front of a semi-truck, and Jeremy was the only person in the car that was killed or even hurt. And he was the only person in the car that was sober and just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
My name is Chanel Jones, and I'm here to talk about my cousin Tori Karter. He's my first cousin because his mom and my dad are sisters and brothers. He died about 2 or 3 years ago, gang-related. He was murdered. He was a real nice person. He has a son. can't do it.
How did his death affect you?
It affected me really bad because it was like we were real close. He was like my older brother. And it was kind of like when he got killed, I was, with, my friends and everything, the homies. And I was saying, well, we need to go find the person, who killed my brother and all this. And they was just sitting there, we was all sitting on the line crying and stuff. And then they were saying, well, ain't no point for us, to go look for him because the police will take care of it. And then half of them was over there saying, well, we need to go and find out who did this, and we need to go and get revenge. And then my grandma had came outside and she was telling everybody, she was like, well, it's not about that. He died because of a bullet and we over here suffering. She said, how do you know, that the person that killed him, his family's not going to be over there suffering just like us.
She suffocated in her vomit. She was dead. I found her there, dead. And it kind of really made me really, it hurt me because, I don't know, it was just hard to handle. I ran and yelled for help, and I just can't believe how she could take her life over something that I didn't think was that bad, but today, suicide, people think that's the answer, but she didn't commit suicide. She died committing suicide. She wasn't in her mind knowing what she was doing. There was so much built up inside her that she thought she could take her life, but instead of trying to take her life, she took her life. It was a difference.
I don't feel that it's there. I don't feel that inside my soul is a happy soul because I don't feel I have no spirit anymore because he's not here. And there ain't no one, I don't feel there ain't no one for me to get dressed for. There ain't no one for me to go buy new clothes for. Sometimes you just want to go and buy all new clothes just so you can have just one person see you. And then he ain't there no more. Then what are you going to, what are you going to do that for? You ain't going to want to do it for yourself. My friend Abon, I just loved him so much. He was just such a pretty person on the outside and inside. And a lot of girls, talk to him or whatever, because that's just like what a lot of guys and a lot of girls, And that's just like what I said, things happen between me and him that no one will ever know about because it was only me and him, But those are the things I have to cherish for life and not let no one damn me about that and just take it and just go on and be a happy person about it. And when he died, you never know how soon a person can die. They can be here 1 hour and gone the next hour because I remember we was at a club, a little after-hour club, and we were there. And we left, and we took a couple of his cousins home, and it was like snowing. This is December, so it was December 22nd that day, before, 12 a.m. And we were at a club, and then after, we just went and spent our time together. And then after I came back home, I just slept in from being up so late. And when I woke up, he was dead. My uncle came over and told me that he died.
At the Private Industry Council, a GED employment and training program, Benny Bogan, the out-of-school program supervisor, explains how the Private Industry Council responded to this rise in youth violence and community grief.
And we start noticing that impact on youngsters in our PIC programs and started trying to make some adjustments with how we serve high-risk youngsters who were gang involved and gang impacted. So in the time that I've been doing this job, 11 years, I can't count the number of youngsters that have come through my program and that are no longer with us or who are incarcerated for a long period of time. So, it's one of those things where it's kind of frightening to see that the level of violence that has surfaced in the Northeast community.
I'm trying to improve my life from what it was when I did have a grip on it, that I don't, now that I don't have a grip on it anymore, and I realize that I don't have a grip, and so I'm trying to get it back together, first by educating myself so I know what's important to me and what I need to have in my life to raise my daughter and become someone and make something of myself and make my voice louder to let people know other things that go on that's not right. You know, just spread my voice so it can be heard, because people hurt.
We started doing orientations that specifically dealt with how you relate to other folks. What we tried to do is make sure that there was a safe environment for people to come to. And with the presence of the gang violence, that was the first spiel that we would give youngsters, that if in fact they came here, there was a dress code that did not allow for any gang type attire, any colors that would associate you with a gang. We addressed the writing styles, how a lot of youngsters will want to use their gang writing, that's not allowed here. The major issue that we talked about was this is an employment and training facility. Anything that doesn't deal with your ability to enhance your marketability for a job, it's not going to fit here. So that deals with dress, it deals with attitude, and it deals with your ability to communicate with your coworkers. So the orientation was real clear, real concise, and didn't leave any wiggle room in terms of, you know, I can circumvent this process. Then the other thing we did is that we got a signed agreement from any youngster that came through the program that we could hold you accountable to this, and if in fact we noticed any of these traits, that we reserve the right to show you the door. You know, you're welcome to be here as long as you deal with the expectations and the guidelines, but you're also welcome to leave. I mean, it's an open entry, open exit kind of format. And as soon as you start making it an issue for somebody's safety here, then, you know, we can't deal with that.
I'm here to fix what I screwed up from the impacts of stuff in my life. Like, when he died, I didn't have a best friend or very many friends after that, and I turned to getting high and doing other stuff to make my life seem better. And I didn't realize what I was doing to myself, and now I'm here.
And you're doing what?
Getting rid of my court stuff and getting my GED so I could go to college.
It was one of those things where we had continued education for the staff, that education was passed on to the youngsters, and that at any point when there seemed to be hot spots in the community, you know, we would try and have these male-female responsibility type group meetings so that these kids could process what was going on and how to diffuse some of that anger. Because lots of times when there's a shooting in the community, our kids wouldn't show up for training. They'd be out there and, you know, ready to do some damage. But we tried to, you know, make sure that they felt comfortable about bringing that in here and talking about it and processing it. And once you can get the conversation going, then the kids seem to understand that, you know, me being reactionary is only going to put me either under or in jail.
Because I got involved with the wrong peoples and I was kicking and thinking that was fun, the fast life was fun, really wasn't, because it wasn't doing nothing for me. And selling drugs ain't gonna get you nowhere, because when you old, you can't sell drugs, you know. You need to get you a job and take care of your family or whatever. And that's just why I'm here, to get my GED and go on to college and do something with my life.
You think programs like PIC have meaning, especially to someone trying to rehabilitate their life?
Yes, because there's not very many programs in Portland for people to do, and there's not many jobs. You need a diploma to get a job, and people aren't going to school, so they're not going to have a job, and that's all they can do is sell drugs to get money.
Now, when you said you were kicking it, what exactly does that mean?
Just hanging out with my friends, not going to school, smoking weed and drinking, just doing all the stuff that I shouldn't have been doing when I should have been at school getting my education, thinking about my life, but thought it was fun, but it's really not fun.
But our programs, we started back in 1990, 91, we started the community pride concept, which the criteria for those kids is that they had to be gang involved and willing and ready to get out of that lifestyle. So it's different from the traditional PIC programs where you come in, you do your GED, do your pre-employment training, and then we work with you in terms of getting you a job. These youngsters, we understand that money is a motivating factor for them. So what we did is we gave them the ability to work up front. We gave them, you know, they could work 6 months straight before they even got involved in our core programs so that they could get used to earning some money, legitimate money. We had 2 crew leaders that were trained to work with these youngsters and become more of a mentor type so that they could talk to them through any other issues that surfaced on the gang crews. And that was the beginning of the PIC programs actually changing what they did as a focus to work with high-risk gang-involved kids. We specifically put a lot of money into the community pride programs. We also had some money that was also given to us through the city, and we had another crew that was called the graffiti crew, and these again were high-risk northeast involved youngsters in gangs, and it's same concept. So we had 3 crews going year-round that specifically dealt with gang-involved, gang-affected kids, and part of the forum each week was that those crew leaders had some time to sit aside and talk to these youngsters about the issues that impact their lives and how are they going to process getting beyond that. And one of the things that we could clearly see is that the expectations that they had, the vision that they had of themselves, it was really, really limited. I mean, they had no concept of getting outside of the community and doing anything that would allow for them to make a livable wage. And we had to instill that into them to make sure that they understood that, you know, this is a possibility for you. And most of the youngsters did well.
I am scared for my son. I'm scared for a lot of our teens in this year, and you know, the 90s. I'm really scared for the teens.
Now, you're here at the Private Industry Council. What are you doing here?
I'm here getting a GED. I want to get a GED. I want to educate myself. I want to get a good job that will pay good enough so I can support me and my son. As a single parent, it's hard because a lot of these schoolings, they're really cutting them off. And PIC has done a lot for me, but you also you have to like dedicate yourself to do things or you're not gonna get nowhere. And I decided, you know, with that incident that I know that I'm gonna make something of myself and that, you know, I'm gonna make sure my son gets everything that everything he needs and be a good parent and not have to rely on everybody else. And just to try to make it on my own. And I hope to be someday an RN or LPN at the most. But it's hard because not having this kind of help, it's hard for us teens, mothers, or even teens, because they're cutting all the funds off for schooling.
The key to that is education and making sure that the employer understands, you know, the issues that are on the table for these youngsters and how they can, you know, be a big part of changing some of the barriers that are there. Again, there has to be a genuine commitment from that employer to want to see youngsters succeed. And one of the things that we've done as an agency is try to continue educating that employer as to what the issues may be and that we provide continuing support. When we place a youngster at a private sector site, we send a staff person out there on a continuous basis to make sure if any red flags surface with the performance of that individual, that we would be willing to deal with that on our end, that you don't have to spend your time or money trying to correct what you see as an issue. We've been more than willing to spend a lot of money and a lot of time in correcting and identifying concerns that surface on the job. Because again, That's our business, employment and training. And we know that the bottom line for employers is that you've got to bring something to the table that's going to make me feel like I'm going to get something out of this, you know, and dollars impact that, you know, the ability to make me a little bit more productive. And once a kid starts showing that they don't have that, then we have to make sure that we correct that, because that reflects on us as an agency. If we're not getting them people that can do the job, then, you know, we're shooting our own selves in the foot.
To finish school and going to get a job so I can take care of me and my son. Because when I was going to school before, it was like I never went to school. I was either smoking weed with my homies, skipping school with my homies, you know, going places that I'm not supposed to be, just having fun, beating up people and stuff. So I was doing then until I got pregnant. I realized, you know, that now I had two lives to live for. I have to live for myself as well as my son.
You got to have a bootstrap to pull up. And a lot of these kids, they don't have families that have been hooked into continuous employment. I mean, there's the social and economic factors behind, you know, what happens when you're in an urban area that, you know, doesn't have any real industry to promote in the community. Most of our kids don't feel comfortable going to Southwest, Beaverton, East Multnomah County, where there are employment opportunities, and they just don't feel comfortable going out there trying to sell themselves. And I think employers are reluctant to deal with our kids who come out there because they have stereotypical kinds of views of these youngsters. The media kind of, you know, buys into that. When you look on any TV news show at the evening time, you're going to see young black males being handcuffed, led away into a police car, and, you know, with not even having 5% of your population being of color, and seeing repetitive times where young people of color are being put in jail, you know, that's going to leave an impact on employers, and it's going to leave an impact on people who are not employers. So I think that you have to have a base, and you have to feel strong about giving the kids a chance, an opportunity to show that they do have skills, that they have something to sell. And I think the employer community hasn't really bought into that. I think that they still feel comfortable hiring people that look like them, that act like them, and that's still an issue for us. It's one of those things where we've got to make sure that, you know, you talk about pulling yourself up by the bootstrap, you got to have one to pull up.
Here I'm learning that education, a higher education, is one thing that I need, and better job skills so that I can learn to be on my own, not necessarily, you know, without him, but to be able to take care of myself, because he had taken care of me.
For years, we've been a safety net. Portland Public Schools can't do everything. A lot of the youngsters are not having their needs met in a public school environment. The PIC has had this program going on for 12 years. And, you know, we see 250 to 300 kids a year. And we don't recruit. So, I mean, these kids are walking in and they're looking for some different avenues to address their issues. And I feel like if there isn't any attention to trying to find some additional dollars to work with youngsters who have issues, who haven't fit well in a traditional school type setting, they're going to see that. I mean, the violence is going to increase. The overcrowding in terms of the jail situation is going to be that much worse, and it's just going to be a much more difficult place to live in for everybody that's here. And, you know, one thing that I know is that once violence hits your neighborhood, then you react differently. And just like in '91 when we had the fallout behind the Rodney King, they had said that we weren't going to get some money for summer. And with all of the violence behind the Rodney King incident, after that riot in LA, they poured money into the community, which is reactionary, and it's not something that's really going to help a situation. And that's what I see getting ready to happen now. They've cut back all of the federal dollars for employment and training. we lost 80% of our budget in the last 2 years. And, you know, that's going to show in the fallout. And again, when some of these congressmen and senators have their families impacted by this, then they will want to throw some money back at us. But it's definitely going to have an adverse impact on the livability of all of our communities, because you just can't throw away, you know, 12 to 15 years of continuous service for programs that have shown to work, and give the rationale that, you know, we're gonna involve school to work programs for kids who stay in school. There are too many kids who will not stay in school, and what are you going to do with those kids?
Training, education, and employment programs, such as the Private Industry Council, gives our youth what they need the most: a second chance. What do you think the problems are?
Well, there's a perception that I like for the young men to think about. When you watch TV, you see Charles Barkley, the various athletes on TV, and when they were younger, they found the time to play ball, to practice. I don't expect for the school system to make sure that you all learn. It's important that you spend the time. I'm an engineer, and I don't say that to be braggadocious, but I had a teacher when I was in high school that told me he didn't think that I could do any better than a C. What that means is don't put your life in someone else's hands. When you go home for love. Don't expect for your teachers to show that same type of affection or that same type of desire for you to learn. Too oftentimes we make excuses for people that don't have anything to do with our lives. And what I'm saying to you is, in order for me to reach the age of 30, I had to learn to walk away.
Our youth may require a healing process as they prepare for the future. We as adults should recognize and respect their grief as we hold them accountable for their behavior and encourage them to make better choices in reacting to conflict. How would it benefit us as Oregonians to gain the world as we lose the souls of our children? Thank you for watching Death in the Hood.